Hey, experts listeners. I want to key you into something that we do very special here at Ops Experts Club, and that's a masterclass. We have a free masterclass called Foundations That Scale. And the great thing about this masterclass is it's for operation professionals who are growing businesses. One of the most dangerous things you can do as an operator is grow businesses on a foundations that's not stable. So in this particular masterclass, we take apart all of the inside pieces of your team, your tech, and how they're using time, and we make sure that you're building on a foundation that's stable. So if you want to check out a great masterclass completely for free, go to foundationsthatscale.com. We'll see you there.
Welcome to the Ops Experts Club with Aaron, Terryn, and Savannah. This podcast will take you behind the scenes of some of the finer details of multi-million-dollar companies. These ops experts have dealt with operations for scaling companies and well-established businesses with anywhere from small to large teams. If you've ever been deep into the details of a major company, then you know how much it takes, and these conversations are just for you. Welcome to the Ops Experts Club podcast.
Hello, Ops Experts people. Welcome to another edition of Ops Experts. Savannah, good to see you.
Good to see you too.
Well, glad to have you. Glad to have our guest. Excited to have another guest segment this week. And it's always fun getting to pick the brains of other operations folks. And this week we have what is called the head of operations. So that's about as high as operational as you can get.
Like operational royalty.
Yes, the crown of operations. So without further words from us, let's bring on our awesome guests. Adriana, welcome to Experts Club.
Thank you. What an introduction. I definitely don't wear a crown.
It's fun to have you here. You know, like I said, we talk with lots of operations people. Very rarely do we get to have such a head of operations.
Awesome. So my role, obviously, that you were head of operations at Manifest You is technically not Manifest You. I know you guys had Kelly on a couple weeks ago who said she was operating out of the media company, they called it, for a couple of years. And I'm operating out of the umbrella company that we're calling it. So basically what that means is any other businesses that the owners of Manifest You, Cody, Barton, and Morby own, I am helping with the operations and all of the shared resources amongst all of those different companies.
Yeah,
So it
so
got
it's
you the queen of operations. Now you're the head of the you're basically like the umbrella cat. Like we're bringing like
There you go.
superpowers into it now.
I'll wear a cape instead of a crown.
that's cool. So at this umbrella company, you guys are working with Manifest You and you're working with other companies. Is that what you're saying?
Yes. Yeah. So we've got Manifest You on the media side, Start Virtual, which offers virtual assistants and programs to help businesses with admin tasks, bookkeeping, things like that. And then we also acquired recently a company called The Plant Guy that operates out of Hollywood, Florida. And they offer really unique custom artificial trees, builds, turf animals, things like that. Very talented group of people. Yeah, I'm basically diving into any of those new types of businesses to help their teams on the ground with whatever operational inefficiencies they have and where we can plug it with their resources. Terryn's been helping us with setting up their CRM because a lot of things have just been done manually, like with sheets of papers and post-it notes. And so it's going to be amazing to have them operating somewhere that's just more efficient and easy for visibility, new things like that.
Yeah. Wow, that is great. So there's a lot of different business going on there and probably more to come.
Exactly.
Wow. So how did you get started into this? Did you bring some expertise? Did they kind of headhunt you? What brought you to the Pace Morby, Cody Barton umbrella team?
Yeah, they reached out to me based on my background in a lot of different technology companies. So I
Yep.
started off a career in just different companies that are pretty well known, and then some not so well known companies that helped improve and sometimes disrupt the industries that they were in. So Yelp is one, for example, that was very new to the scene when I worked there. People, didn't know that as a household name. They knew it as like the sound a dog makes, which is what I got all the time. Another company I worked for a long time, a little over 4 years, was Uber, when they were disrupting the taxi company. And just what it is today is really what we were doing on the ground to grow it. And then I also worked for a company that was trying to change the way payments were accepted in the cannabis industry because credit cards were regulated and cash is dangerous. So
Mhm.
just things like that I feel like really translated well to what, Pace and Cody are trying to accomplish in these different places. Not all businesses operate the same. And how can we, use that previous experience to make them, run more smoothly?
So when you're picking your assignments, like, have you specifically picked things out because of how world changing they are? Because I feel like it sounds like everything that you've done has been like, yeah, like you said, like like a disruptor where it's like, this is going to change the way that the world does things. And that's pretty crazy that you've gotten to work for that many who have that in common.
Yeah, yeah. I've tried to. I've also worked for companies that are really well established, like Indeed, which they're not changing the game, but they're still helping people get hired, and they're working to make that hiring process for both, the candidates and the employers seamless process and using technology to like bridge the gap between them. So I definitely feel like I can vet out, and that's something too that we're taking into these new businesses is it might be something like a plumbing company that has operated the same and always done the same thing that other plumbing companies do, but how can we make them unique and just, more successful?
Wow. Yeah. Those are, like you said, those are some pretty household names. And working with this new umbrella company, do you feel like they're going to be a future household name?
I hope so. We just have to brand it. Send me your ideas.
Yeah, I
I
do
like
know
the umbrella
already whenever
company.
I speak to a lot of people and they already know who Pace Morby is. Maybe half the time I'm talking to somebody and it's like, oh yeah, I've seen his videos.
Yeah, definitely. And Cody will be there eventually too. They'll be the household names that eventually, whatever company that we create is what they're always mentioning.
I just think the umbrella company itself sounds enigmatic and interesting. So I'm sure someone already has something similar, but I feel like that would be, someone would be like, what is that? I want to know.
So tell me, when did you start this role with Pace and Cody?
I'm pretty new. I am about 2 months in.
Wow, yeah,
Definitely.
you're getting your gears going, that's for sure.
Yeah, definitely hitting the ground running.
So kind of in that 2 months, or even in maybe some of your previous roles, what's something big that stands out to you that you've learned or taught was kind of help grow you.
Yeah, I learned a long time ago from a leader that would always come into a one-on-one conversation with this like it shifted really quickly. So it was a normal one-on-one conversation for a while of just like a check-in, how can I support you? And then all of a sudden he started changing the words to the first question he'd ask was like, what problems are you dealing with? And I would always like come into that very insecure of like, I don't want him to think that I always have a problem. Why does he keep asking me? Does he think I'm the problem child? Like, and then when I would, come to the table with something that I was dealing with, like a very like small scale little thing that I'm like, okay, well, maybe he can help me determine who should be a part of this project kickoff meeting, for example. One day he would be like, let me see who you have. Looks great. Let's move on. Or the next he'd be like, well, tell me who you have and why. So it was a very different way that he would approach the answer as well. And I would, again, feel so insecure walking away thinking like, did that go well? Or did that just cause more issues in like the long run? I was so confused. And like later down the road, when I became a leader myself, having one-on-ones with my own team members, having team meetings, I realized like light bulb moment that like, oh my gosh, he was trying to shift my mentality in those situations where it was trying to like problem solve together. It just the communication was off. So I feel like my biggest learning was that I didn't go into it asking a question of like, hey, why are you asking this question? Or what's the purpose of this question? And now I feel like, I looked back on that like leadership learning isn't about creating a problem free work environment for your team. It's really how you're approaching it and then managing those inevitable bumps in the roads that happen. That makes you like an effective leader, but also an effective operations manager. You go into these businesses or teams where there might be kinks in the road that you need to fix. And asking all of those questions and then coming to the table with a solutions oriented mindset is really like the biggest takeaway that I learned from that little story of like feeling insecure in the moment and then having the light bulb moment of, oh, that's why.
Do you feel like through that you learned how to talk to your team in a way that gets the same job done without making them feel extreme anxiety over how they're working with you?
Definitely. Like not only team members, that I'm working with on an individual basis, but again, like the companies, like the plant guy, for example, of, hey, I'm asking these questions about how you run your business for a reason. Here are all the reasons I'm communicating up front so that it helps with the conversation and then they're not feeling under attack or, you know, like, why are they asking? Are they trying to take over the world? Like things like that.
Yeah, I felt like that's come up a lot where you're coming in and you're just trying to be helpful, but because the literal job is to find what's wrong and fix it. And so immediately people are like, what's wrong with me? Like, like, I'm not judging you. I promise. Like, your job is safe. Like, don't worry. I feel like you're having to be a comforter at the same time.
Exactly. Like a therapy session.
Yeah, and you've seen in the way the L10 meetings work, we call that section issues, and that's where we spend the bulk of our meetings. And it really helps normalizing that we all have issues. And no matter in the company's been around for 1 year, 10 years, that issues list is going to be almost full every week you go through it, because that's just a part of doing things. As things come up, things rise to the surface, and we need to look at it and we need to identify it, and then we need to create a path to solve it. So I think that really helps kind of normalize problems and issues.
Exactly. And normalize the problem solving mentality, being solutions oriented is it's bringing up an issue that maybe you've thought of solutions to bring to the table, but you're also asking for advice, from the other people on the team that might have more of an expertise in that area.
Yeah, and I've heard a great method from one of our clients that he taught his team, and it's the 131 method, where you bring your one issue, your three possible solutions, and then your one recommendation out of those three. And then you bring that to the team, and then it starts translating. Now you're not just bringing issues, you're recommending solutions to the issue. And then it gives you even more ownership.
Yeah, that's great. That's a great way to put it.
So, I mean, that kind of was a big hurdle to you as well. Was that what you would say would be your biggest hurdle, dealing with now or in the past, or do you have something else to share with that?
Yeah, I feel like my biggest hurdle could be pretty well recognized across like anybody working in the working world is just those like extremely sudden focus changes that I've experienced at multiple companies where, I feel like some things can just create a very short term performance goal focus, like cost cutting because of the recession or COVID. If a new product is being launched, but a new regulation is preventing it from happening, it's like scrap everything we did. We have to start over. Or market share is shifting because competition is doing something in a region. So let's completely, go all hands on deck in that region, forget what we're doing in the other one. So I think that's a big hurdle that is continuous for a lot of companies. And I feel like it's really important to have that long-term performance goal as well so that you don't forget or get discouraged about what you were working towards. And that's another thing about the L10s that's so great is that you have rocks, you've got goals that you're looking forward to. You can see trends over time. So you're not always focused on that short term, let's fix a problem, let's solve it now, and then forget everything else that we're doing.
Yeah, losing focus is pretty easy to do these days when you've got so many different ways people are reaching out to you for something. And I myself can get pretty focused on something and just kind of tune it out. I've gotten better over time. And then before you know it, I have an email, and then I have a Vox saying, hey, check your email. Then I have a text saying, hey, check your Vox about checking your email. And it's like, oh, shoot, I just 2 hours went by and somebody needed something from me. I'm just thinking, so
Yep.
just so many different ways to communicate these days, and it can be harder. Yes, you have one that
Yeah, I think
you've seen work well for you, or that works with groups you work with.
Yeah, I think it depends on the circumstance. So I think, weekly meeting where everybody's coming together is a preferred communication style just for a big team to be on the same page, and it's coming together as a group to really discuss things in the moment and prepare for that. So I feel like that's like my favorite form of communication. But for those immediate things that, come up, I feel like just whatever the other person's communication style that you can adapt to is. So if they're, somebody that's over on their computer and don't have Slack downloaded, then text them. Like, however you're going to get a hold of them, I think is like my favorite ways to adapt to their way.
So what do you see as some pretty big, needle movers in what you're working in right now when it comes to some of these new companies you might be bringing in or working with different types of companies? And what really helps you gauge that?
I think in the future, big needle mover will be collecting like trends over time. So seeing maybe some of these companies that have been operating for a long time in the same way that may be a little old school, like no technologies used, just makes their life a little harder, but it's easier for them in the moment because they don't have to learn something new or change something, or they haven't had the time to research something. So I feel like coming prepared with, all right, if you need this, we've got this in our back pocket, I think is going to really move the needle faster. And just knowing exactly what to ask in order to dive deeper into those, operational efficiencies. Like, hey, it seems like you're doing this really well, but there's some other things that could plug into a solution that also might just improve the process. So, yeah, I feel like it's not an immediate thing, but the more we get prepared and the more we learn and the more we see, we'll be able to move that needle faster.
Hmm. Yeah, you seem like somebody who really loves finding a new cool tool, which is a segment we do here on the show of just fun new technology apps you can utilize that really up level how you're doing things with your business, how your team's working, and all that. Is there some cool apps you've been working with lately that you're really gunning for?
I've always been like a really big fanboy of Asana. I love it's not new, it's not cool, but it's just very like well organized. There's a lot of great features that the more you use it, the more you become familiar with it, the more you realize like, oh, this is making my life easier. This is making my team's life easier. So I feel like that's always something that I lean on is like, I love it. I always will love it. So yeah, that's
Mhm.
my answer. Have you done a segment on Asana yet?
Asana is one of my personal favorites. I even use it for personal things. Like I'll use it for like home stuff. I have like my own little, board team thing in there that's just for everything because it interacts with your phone so well, so seamlessly. So you can look at your to-do list right there on your phone and it syncs with your computer and the reminder and email. It's just I love Asana.
Yeah, we're big users of it at the Collab team. I love it. I just sold somebody on it yesterday because I was like,
I
check out the free version, 15 users, or you have to go to paid, all free, all the features except recording and custom fields. So they make it pretty useful for people to just jump into without paying.
Definitely.
And then they're always like, okay, what about Monday? And it's like, well, do you want simple or do you want complexity? It's kind of the
Right.
two sides there.
Yes.
So what's a little piece of advice you today would give you just starting out in your role a couple of months ago that maybe would help you get started even better?
Yeah, I think I would tell my younger self to go out of your comfort zone a lot quicker and not be so scared or afraid of change or not being the expert in, whatever it is that you think that you're the expert in at the time, because that's going to change. So I feel like I really grew professionally and personally when I started volunteering for things that I wasn't really an expert in or had a lot of knowledge about, but I felt interest in. So I was like, I know that I'm not going to be able to contribute a lot, but I know that I'll learn a lot. And that really took me out of my comfort zone. And without a little discomfort in your life, there's not going to be change. There's not going to be growth or learnings. And I feel like just embracing those new challenges and opportunities is what's going to just make you flourish. And yeah, that's what I would have told my younger self.
I appreciate that call out because I feel like, especially in, a technology field in general, but almost especially in operations in technology, like we're kind of constantly facing things that we're unfamiliar with. And it's not that we're necessarily expected to know everything, but people do look to the operations folks to be, the most expert person on their staff with the new stuff that's coming out. So you have to learn new things very quickly and be willing to talk about it with authority, which is really hard and can be really scary if you're talking to a big, a bigger company or a bigger department, especially if you're trying to convince a company to move on to a new process that involves that new piece of technology. So that's a really important piece of advice. It's just that without that little discomfort, there is no growth.
That's so true. And that builds you more confidence when you know that you're a little challenged by it, that it, I don't know, makes you more motivated to be able to speak to it, be able to have confidence behind it.
Yeah, we're always getting pushed to do new things at the Collab team. We work with different types of clients who are in different levels of business, who are doing different things, or using different tools. And we're always coming into situations where you have to do something new or get pushed out of your comfort zone. And I used to be scared and be like, well, I don't know how to do that. I've never done that before. And then you just kind of like change your soundtrack, as John Acuff would say. And I started telling myself, well, instead of that, I get to say, well, actually, I get to learn something new. And not only did I get to learn something new, but I'm going to be paid to learn something new. This isn't school. This isn't college where I have to pay somebody a bunch of money to teach me something new. I'm going to get paid to learn something new. And that's cool.
That's awesome. And it's important to have leaders that support that mentality too. Like, hey, I want to give you the opportunity to educate you on whatever you're interested in or whatever you think is going to help you grow professionally, because ultimately that's going to help the entire team, the entire company. So it's really good to have that too from above.
I feel like that increases retention too. If you're telling your employees that you are actively building them up and trying to move them up versus like, you're good where you are. Like, you're really great where you are. We like what you're doing. Just keep doing what you're doing. Like, no one wants to just keep doing. Well, I guess there are some people, but most people don't want to just keep doing what most people want to grow and get better. So
Absolutely.
Now, Adriana, we've been, working with you probably since you started. I remember your first meeting, being introduced as the new head of operations. It's been great. It's been fun connecting with you and really seeing you work through the other businesses and kind of be that go-between, especially with us at the Collab team and the kind of stuff we're trying to do to help assist Cody and some of the other stuff when you guys are acquiring these businesses or trying to up level. And it's really great having you along for the ride. I can see why you are a good pick for them. And yeah, I hope you've also enjoyed working with the Collab team in that role too.
I definitely have. It's been awesome to get to know you guys on a more personal level and professionally. You flex skill sets all the time, just as a little nugget of surprise. Like, oh, hey, I actually have a lot of background in that, or we, hired for that role. So let me share everything. You guys are so open with your knowledge. I absolutely love that about your team. So it has been amazing working with you guys, and I'm still learning a lot from you.
Well, I'm sure we're going to be learning a lot from you as well. I mean, I've never worked with somebody who's been in quite such household names of businesses. So as we keep going further, it'll be fun to see what other kind of nuggets you have to share with us.
Definitely have stories.
this was great. Just like you said, like, I don't think I've ever had the opportunity to talk to someone who has worked with such pivotal companies. We do a lot with some really cool businesses, but just hearing some of the names and then just having that tied in with, smaller businesses. Like, everything starts out as a small business and just, with the idea that they want to change something big. So I'm excited to see what you guys all do together and, what kind of shifts you can make in the industry with what you've learned from the other ones.
Love it. I can't wait to share. Thank you guys so much for having me on.
Yeah, thanks for joining us, Adriana. It's been a pleasure, and I'll see you in our next L10 meeting for sure. Thank you, Ops Experts people, for tuning in. It's been great, and we'll see you again next Thursday for another awesome segment with us here. Bye, everybody.
Thank you for tuning in to the Ops Experts Club podcast. New episodes available every week on Spotify, iTunes, and everywhere you listen to podcasts. If you're curious about how some of the biggest names in entrepreneurship have scaled their businesses to the next level, check out some of our best content on this topic by going to foundationsthatscale.com. You can find the link in our bio and do your part to improve as an ops expert.